All right, so our Carbonite Black dashboard display has arrived, and let's go ahead and unbox it, open it up, and start configuring it. So when we open up the box, on the top, we are going to find the accessory kit. Then inside of the box, we've got some secure foam that needs to come out, 2 pieces. That holds the panel in place so it doesn't move around. All right, so when our display comes out of the box, we've got it nicely wrapped up. We'll need to take it out of the plastic. And what you're going to notice right away is that the menu PC is already attached for you. So this is a Dell PC that VESA mount attaches in the bracket to the back of the monitor, and then we'll be able to take a VESA mount 100 pattern and mount that to support both the panel and the PC. Already plugged in is the video and the USB for the PC into the monitor. So this is the same monitor that we use with our Acuity series production switchers as well. So it's a 15-inch high performance touchscreen LCD. So very nice trim, goes really nice with the Carbonite Black series. All right, so what else is in the box? So we'll just move this off to the side so that we can see the connectors. All right, so we've got a set of instructions on how to use the menu remote. So the touchscreen actually does have a remote control so that you can get access to the menu and its sub-functions. This is not required for regular operation. The panel will turn on and off based on sensing video coming in from the PC. So when you shut down the PC, the menu will go into a hibernate and sleep mode and turn off. As soon as the PC turns on, it will automatically power up the display as well. So this can stay in the box if you want. You've got the power supply for the touchscreen along with its line cord. We've got the power supply for the dashboard PC along with its line cord. And for them, there is an optional bracket. Now, if you'd like, this optional bracket can be installed, allowing you to mount this to the bottom of this. This would house and hold the power supply inside of it, and then you don't require setting it up differently. However, since we're going to have this attached to a VESA arm and we're going to be tidying up and dressing our wires, we're going to go ahead and leave this in the box. Also, you've got your screws for mounting the VESA arm to the back of the touchscreen. Okay, so now that we've got our accessory kit pulled apart, we got everything that we need. Let's go ahead and get ourselves a VESA arm, get this attached, get it mounted, and then we're going to start booting it up and getting it configured. All right, so we've now got our Carbonite dashboard display mounted to our VESA arm here, and just for convenience, I've plugged in a USB keyboard and USB mouse. Now this is a touchscreen, so of course you can use the built-in Windows on-screen keyboard, which will automatically come up to enter passwords and any information as well. However, if you have the space, at least for configuration, it's great to just throw in a keyboard, make it easier. So when it boots up, the first thing that you'll have is the login. So the username is defaulted to Ross Video. Password is password, all lowercase. So now that we've entered the password, click enter. It's going to boot into that user account. Now, you can go ahead and launch Dashboard. It will ship with the base dashboard version, which is shipping. Currently, because I want to work with version 11 on the Carbonite switcher, I need version 7 of Dashboard. Now, Dashboard version 7 will release around the same time that Carbonite version 11 releases, so these will be both readily available to you. So right here, we've already got our switcher connected. If it's on the network with version 11, it's going to automatically show up on your network. It has SLP running now. If it does not, you simply click on the plus button, click on Open Gear, because it's the Open Gear protocol, TCP/IP, click Next, and then you enter the IP address and give it a name. And once you've given it an IP address and a name, you'll hit Finish, and then that will add it into your system for you automatically. So once it's up and running, you can click on the drop down. Of course, you can just touch the screen as well to bring up the drop downs. And you want to launch at least one of these. And once it launches and it brings that menu up, you'll see that you're able to now click on Menu, and you can go into full screen mode. So now we're in full screen. All navigation is done with the lower section of the screen. So here I'm on the switcher status menu. I can see all of my switcher status. In the Live Assist pane, you want to make sure that your panel link is enabled. Now, panel link on Live Assist, which is the default mode, by the way, panel link, what it does is it allows us, when we're making changes from the physical production switcher surface, that the Live Assist menu will auto follow. That way, if I select a media wipe or a transition or a keyer, hit chroma key, when I hit these things, it will automatically switch this menu to follow along with me, so giving me that rich user experience. So some of the other things that we've added when you look at the configuration menu, right, you'll notice down along the bottom we have our nice navigational strip. So your system, so in the system you can set your field dominance, your ancillary data mode, positioning your clean feeds for each ME, as well as whether or not an ME is running in layer mode. So layer mode is where we get video, and it uses the clean feed output to provide a composited alpha. Puts it over black all the time, and now what you can do is make a composited key that you can then take the video and alpha out separately, or stick those, say, into a mini ME and allow you to have multiple keys over a different background. Under reference, this is where you pick your video mode and your external or internal reference setting, and then set up your internal reference output settings. So being able to say, okay, I want to output black burst, and set the vertical and horizontal timing. If you are running a standard frame and you're in the standard mode with 6 frame syncs and format converters, this is also the location where you will find the assignments for those 6 converters. Inputs, so now on my input side, you can come in, scroll, be able to name your inputs, and again, clicking in here, typing on a keyboard, or manually clicking in here and then bringing up the Windows keyboard. You have your internal sources and, of course, your substitution table. The substitution table is specifically supported for our mini MEs and multi-screen. So when we're doing multi-screen productions, this allows us to have different sources. This is useful when I have a source that does not need to scale across all the screens because it actually has multiple channels. So think like a video server where I have 3 channels, and so the left screen will get channel 1, the center screen will get channel 2, the right screen will get channel 3. So I would set up my substitution table as such by simply selecting the source. So we'll say 1.1 on mini ME1, it gets nothing. But 1.1 mini ME2, it gets 1.2. So just using this as an example. So now it knows that this source must be a substitution whenever that one is taken. And you can set up some complex substitution tables. This is also where you'll use the multi-screens for your 4K productions. Being able to use the substitution table to specify what camera sources are your quads, right? Because in 4K, it's 4 times 3 gigabit, and you get quadrants in each one. And this will be how we do the substitution table to split it up so it doesn't scale. For all the sources that are, say, 1080p or 1080i native, you will not add a substitution, and then the switcher will automatically scale those into that 4K resolution. So it's a very powerful feature built in. So on our output side, this is where you define what the physical output is sending out. So on a physical output, it can be any of the physical inputs, as well as aux buses. And that way with an aux bus, you can, from the control surface or a menu UI, change the source with a seamless switch. And of course, assign any of the mini MEs directly on the outputs. On air. So on air is a tool for specifying what MEs, mini MEs, and outputs are actively always on air. If I'm feeding an onset monitor with an aux bus, or I'm feeding an iMag screen with an aux bus, it's nice to be able to say, okay, that bus is on air. And now when I select a source on that bus, like taking camera 2 on the aux 8, it will tally camera 2 just as if it was on air. And this is very important when you're doing these multi-screen productions, being able to manage that tally system accordingly. Your GPIO, every GPI input and output can be defined here, so you can set each pin to be either an in or an out, set your events, set your MEs, and set your key delegation. Your multi-viewers. So now we have the ability to come in, pick from all of the different layouts that you choose from, whether or not the labels are on, the tally information, is it a box-based tally, is it label-based, the clock, is the clock enabled, and the ancillary source. So the ancillary source is how we get the media store audio out of these switchers. And it's very important to understand that there are a couple of selections to choose from. The selections include Media 1 and Media 2. Now this is going to take the media store directly out on the embedded audio of this multi-viewer. So you want to go out of the multi-viewer output into a de-embedder, then from the de-embedder out to your monitor. Now the ROS Video SHC, which is the serial SDI to HDMI converter that we have, you have de-embedding on that card. So you can use that as a means to pull a stereo pair off of that media store. A lot of other converters that do this SDI to HDMI that you're probably doing at the monitor also support this behavior, and that's a really easy way to get the audio out of the system without having to add too much extra cost. However, if you need more than the 2-channel stereo pair, you will want to go to a more expensive de-embedder that's going to allow you to get all of those channels out of the system. So for now, I could assign, say, Media 1 to Multi-Viewer 1. And now the audio that gets played on Media 1 will go out on the multi-viewer. Now, one of the other features we have is in the situation where it has more to do with my media wipes. I'm using this for media wipes, and that's really where the audio is. I'm not going to be triggering media stores independently and audio independently on those media stores. Well, I can specify which ME it tracks. So that way, if on ME2, I select a different media store for the media wipe, it will automatically assign the correct audio to go out the multi-viewer. So if on my media wipe, I'm using channel 1, it'll make sure to send channel 1's audio out. If I switch to channel 2, which is all embedded in those custom controls for me, it's going to automatically under the hood change that for you. So it's a real easy way to make sure that it manages the audio correctly, and then I only require to have one de-embedder operating. Transparency, so that's referring to the labels in the multi-viewer grid. And then you just click on a button and you can pick any source, and then you can go through and you can assign anything you like inside of the parameters pane. And of course your clock, whether it's coming from system time or from the external time code. Position it, set whether or not you want 24-hour or 12-hour clock, or 12-hour with AM and PM, and then setting your colors and your positioning. So everything is all present for you. Multi-screen, so setting up your layout and configuring how you want the multi-screen to behave. You got your layouts, and if you use a 2-window layout, either horizontal or vertical, then you've got the second set of multi-screen 2 available to you at that time as well. Now, multi-screen 1 can have up to 4 screens, and if I'm also doing 4K productions, this is actually how we set it up. We configure that quad 2x2, and then it'll automatically assign mini MEs 1 through 4 to quads 1 through 4. Network settings, so being able to come in and configure your network adapters directly inside of this UI. And finally, diagnostics. In the configuration, you can now log directly to USB, so it'll be streaming constantly to the USB, or you can choose not to stream them to USB, and if you need a copy of the logs to send back for any troubleshooting, you can simply hit the copy button and it'll push those out to the USB drive. All right, so moving on from configuration, let's look at our Live Assist tab. Live Assist is going to follow along with the switcher. It will auto panel follow. So it's got your MEs, your mini MEs, your multi-screens. Finally, we've got our memories, and this has to do with our memories and memory attribute system. So you'll notice there is a recall, a store, and then an R state, and we'll get to R state in a moment. Recall is the overriding parameters. Now what the overriding parameters allow me to do is force either the recall or no recall of these parameters. And when I look at my legend, I'll see that empty means for these, the recalls, that the memory is empty when it's gray. The orange color is telling me that the memory has something in it, so it contains information. And then finally, the blue is telling me that this was the last recalled memory on the switcher. Attributes. So for the attributes themselves, that's where you've got no recall is gray. So that means when I recall a memory, force it to not recall this device. Orange means do whatever was stored in the memory. This allows each memory to be defined on a memory by memory basis using the store attributes when I go to store the memory. And then finally, blue is recall, meaning override the memory attributes no matter what they were and always force this to recall. The right side navigation also includes the subsections. So you'll notice in the general subsection, you've got how the recall mode is being recalled. Is it program, memory AI, effects dissolve, or do whatever was stored in the individual memory? Effects dissolve duration, again, you can force a rate, or you can say do whatever the memory is telling it to do. We've got our device attributes. So even, for example, here, this is forcing it to recall. So let's go ahead and set that to memory, because that's the default we want it to be. On ME1, I now have my transition area, next trans buttons, whether or not it runs the auto trans after the memory recall. Does it recall a source to the program bus, to the preset bus, and does the shared pattern recall, so the memory wipe pattern and mask pattern. You then have parameters for every single keyer. You've got the bus, you've got the active, so is it on air or not on air, you've got the key type, and you've got the mask, whether or not these items prepare. So every single memory allows you on the ME by ME basis to go in and really configure that memory on what specific items it's supposed to recall or not recall. ME2 has the exact same set. Your mini MEs, all four have basically the similar type layouts. Your multi-screen, whether or not the multi-screens will recall. You've got your AUXes, so enabling your AUX buses and whether or not the AUX buses are to recall and which buses do or don't recall. And of course on the general tab you had your media stores, so whether or not the media store is to recall. So when we look at the store side, you'll notice it looks the same. The only difference is now you're picking whether or not things store or don't store. So when I look at the legend, I can see recall or no recall. So here I'm setting it up so that when I store this memory, it was going to make sure the recall mode is program, or I could say no, I want it to use effects dissolve, so it will dissolve to it. Do the device attributes. Do I recall the camera, the last recalled camera? Do I trigger roll GPO? Do I trigger the roll VTR, the roll clip interface? And do I roll P-bus devices? So you can enable those or disable them so it won't auto roll. Then you can specify whether or not you want those media stores to recall or not recall. Now the media stores have a very valuable feature in that Every ID is stored on that USB drive with the media asset. So when you take your show and that whole USB drive with you and you plug it into another Carbonite, everything will recall. So on recalls that involve media items, it's very useful to enable this. Now, if you have some things loaded that you don't want to recall, you can always not include them when you store the memory. Remember as well, you can always use the recall side attributes to override this parameter. And then that way you could force them to never recall if something's changed in your show and you need a temporary override without having to go back through all your show files, recall the memories, disable those, and then restore them. So the recall can be very useful in that sense. All the MEs have the exact same parameters as on the recall side. The only difference is, obviously, you can't set whether it's to force on, force off, and go to memory. You are basically picking what it is when this recalls to tell the recall side what parameters to recall or not recall. Same with your aux buses. Further in the live assist area, so we see our memory system, but in the live assist area at the bottom, next up is buses. So buses allow me to, from the soft panel, pick any ME, mini ME, multi-screen, or aux bus, and you'll see that the navigation will auto follow, so I can pick, okay, aux 8, and now I can pick a list of physical inputs, the internal sources like media stores, and go ahead and pick those assignments. So this allows me to have a full bus controller right from the system UI, including the MEs, being able to select any source on those MEs and those keyers and be able to control them. Finally, we have the ME copy feature. So this is an easy way through the menu system, once you've set up an ME and you want that ME to be copied to your other ME in the switcher, being able to copy them and allow you to store the memories so that they have identical layouts, so you could recall that same effect in either ME. All right, so next on the list is custom controls. This is pretty extensive, so we're going to come back to this at the end of the session and do a little bit separate piece on custom controls and how that UI now functions. So Media Manager. When you launch the Media Manager, it is essentially launching that web browser built directly inside of the switcher. So I can navigate through my USB drive, I can see all of my sources, I can see my captures, you can see your media items, you have your full pane down at the bottom, being able to set up and configure the elements of that media store. You can drag and drop, and you have all of your media item transport controls right from within that UI. So again, same media manager we've always had, still embedded in Dashboard, and now easier to access from the toolbar. Okay, so let's go to those custom controls now, and let's talk about the custom controls. So with version 11, we're introducing a new custom control editor. Now, right now, when you look at the pane, you'll notice that the shop box is the same. I've got my 8 banks with my 32 custom controls, fully accessible from the menu UI, and this is my shop box that will allow me to drive those custom controls. Now, on the editor side, the editor has changed, and it's really neat in what now we're able to do inside of this system. So you can go through, pick any bank, any custom control. If you want to rename the custom control, you can go ahead and recall this, test 1. So now when I go back to that shop box, I can see that it's been renamed, right? And it's been updated. You can also record the macro, append the macro, insert based on where you are in the chain. You can delete an event, delete an entire custom control macro, or you can copy the custom control macro so that you can then paste it inside of another custom control. So as an example, I'd hit copy, and it gives me my pop-up. I say I want to copy this to custom control 3. Click copy. It goes ahead and it copies it into that location and moves me onto that custom control macro so that now I could take that and maybe start my editing process. So in the event list, you have a scroll bar, and you can scroll through and see every single event and how it progresses and the amount of time. At the bottom, you can run individual events, you can delete an event, you can edit an event, and you can even modify the event list. So if I click on modify, now it brings up that event list item. And I can go ahead, and if I double click on this, for example, this pause, it jumps into that. And now I can easily come in and I can modify that pause. So this becomes very, very useful because now I can insert, which would insert before it, or I can replace. So now that I've replaced it, it's now 27 frames on that item. So editing of your custom controls has become amazingly fast. Also, you can now perform any event on the switcher inside of this UI. So if I'm wanting to add something at the end of this macro, but before the loop, I can go ahead and say insert, right? And it went and gave me that pause. So now we click done, and I say, okay, here, I want to insert, I want to edit this event, right? And now what we want to do is say, okay, before this loop, I want to go to the switcher. I want to go to a bus source, for example. On aux 8, I want to select source of the CamBot. And now I want to go ahead and I want to insert this, or I could append it to the end of the custom control. I could replace over top of here, or I could click done. So obviously we want to insert it before the loop, and we saw that my bus automatically inserted, and my marker stays exactly in that same location, allowing me to insert more events and not have to go and edit that section. So this custom control UI is going to be just great, a fantastic thing to use. It's really bringing that next level to the Carbonite series, and you'll notice that the UI change is for the positive. So again, you've got your navigation, all of your configuration and elements built right into the dashboard display here for the Carbonite series switchers. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If there is anything else that you'd like to see, feel free to email me at loreilly@rossvideo.com or switchers@rossvideo.com, and somebody from the product management team will be able to get back to you. Thanks again for watching.